What if our species' oldest, deepest dream was just a biological fact? Not in some clunky machine, but with our own 2 arms and a pair of wings. Today we're going to explore what that alternate reality would actually look like, where natural human flight changes absolutely everything.
You know, this longing is just baked into our DNA. It's in all our myths, from Icarus flying too close to the sun to Da Vinci's sketches. It's this ultimate symbol of freedom, of ambition, of reaching for something more. So let's do it. Let's make that longing real. What would it take, and what would it change?
Okay, so first things first. Before we can even think about building a new world, we have to build a new human. Because to make natural flight possible, our entire anatomy would need a complete, radical overhaul.
Right off the bat, we've got a huge problem. Us. We're just too heavy. A 70-kilogram person would need a ridiculous wingspan to get off the ground. So our flying cousin, let's call them Homo volans, would have to be way, way lighter. Their bodies would be completely re-engineered for the sky, not for the ground.
So here's the spec sheet. Our solid, heavy bones? Nope. They'd have to be replaced with a hollow but super strong lattice structure, kind of like a bird's. Our lungs would need these special air sacs just to get enough oxygen to power flight. And our muscles? Well, our whole upper body would be dominated by massive pectoral muscles, while our legs would shrink down to basically just be landing gear. Oh, and our metabolism? It'd have to be this super efficient engine, just constantly burning through a diet of fats and proteins.
Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds like science fiction. And it is. But for this to be even a little bit plausible, there would need to be some kind of massive evolutionary push. So, what kind of world would force our ancestors to take to the skies?
Well, you can kind of picture a few paths, right? Maybe our ancient ancestors lived in a world with unbelievably tall trees or massive canyons, where being able to glide was a huge advantage for survival. Give that a few million years, and gliding could evolve into true powered flight. Or, hey, maybe this whole story takes place on a planet with lower gravity, which would make getting off the ground a whole lot easier. And then there's the third option. Future us, using genetic engineering to intentionally create a new flying species of human.
Okay, so we've got our Homo volans. The biology is sorted. Now we can get to the really fun part. What kind of world would these flying humans actually create? Because I can tell you one thing, it will look nothing like ours.
This is where it gets absolutely fascinating. Just try to forget streets, cars, sidewalks. You have to start thinking in 3 dimensions. The sky itself would be the main street, the town square, the whole shebang.
Our cities would be completely transformed. We wouldn't build skyscrapers, we'd build air scrapers. And these wouldn't be sealed-off towers you enter from the bottom. No, they'd be open structures with huge terraces at every level for people to land and take off. You'd have sky corridors and floating platforms connecting buildings. It would be a living, breathing, 3-dimensional ecosystem.
And the impact on our technology? It's just staggering. Think about this. The wheel, maybe our most important invention ever. It might not have even been invented. No need for it. No cars, no roads, no bridges. All that innovation would have gone into personal flight instead. Things like lightweight gear to protect your wings, super high-energy nutrient gels for long flights, and a whole system of beacons to navigate the crowded skies. So you change the body, you change the world, and that, inevitably, forges a totally new culture. The way we think, the way we speak, what we believe in, it would all be shaped by a life lived in the air. Our metaphors would become literal. I mean, think about it. If you called someone down to earth, that could be a serious insult. It could mean they're boring or stuck. But to say someone is soaring high would be a literal compliment. Our entire language would shift from a horizontal world to a vertical one.
And spirituality would, well, it would ascend. You could see whole new religions forming around aerotheism, basically the worship of the sky. The wind currents that let you travel, that sustain your life, those would be seen as divine forces. Imagine priests leading their congregations in a soaring flight, their sermons just carried on the wind. The ground, in contrast, might be seen as a place of confinement, almost like a kind of hell.
Education would be flipped on its head. Before a kid ever learned to read or do math, their survival would depend on mastering the air. The core curriculum would be things like flight etiquette for busy skies, developing a natural 3D spatial awareness, and learning to read the weather like it was a book.
Okay, so we've talked about the body and the world, but what would it actually feel like? How would this constant ability to just fly shape the human mind? our fears, our joys, our sense of freedom? And this really gets to the heart of the paradox. On the one hand, you have this unimaginable, constant freedom. You can escape anything. You can find true, perfect solitude up in the clouds. But that comes with a pretty heavy price. You'd have totally new anxieties, the fear of a sudden storm, of getting sick miles above the ground, or just that constant low-level awareness of the danger of falling.
And that absolute freedom just shatters our whole system of laws and ethics. I mean, think about it. Who owns the air above your house? How does a cop pull someone over when they can just fly up? Is reckless flying treated like drunk driving? Is privacy even a thing anymore when someone can just hover outside your window?
So let's bring this all in for a landing and look at the final and maybe the toughest consequences of this amazing gift. Because it turns out, a world without anchors is complicated.
Even in a world where everyone can fly, you can bet human nature would find a way to create new hierarchies. The rich and powerful might live in these pristine sky cities way up high, maybe using tech to make their wings better. And the poor? They could be stuck down in the polluted lower zones, their natural flight range limited. Altitude itself could become the ultimate status symbol.
And conflict? Conflict would change too. War would no longer be a two-dimensional game played on a map. It would become fully three-dimensional. Soldiers maneuvering in the sky like birds of prey. It is a truly terrifying thought.
Which brings us to the ultimate question. When you weigh it all, the biological costs, the incredible new societies, the psychological freedom, and all the terrifying new dangers, does this gift of flight actually make humanity better? And I think this quote just nails it. The power of flight wouldn't magically solve all our problems. It would just present us with a new, far more complex world. It shows us that maybe being human isn't about escaping our limits, it's about learning how to navigate them, always caught in that balance between our desperate need to soar and our fundamental need to connect with each other on the ground.